Hello and welcome to the Health Source podcast, your source for all things health, wellness and lifestyle inspo. I'm your host, Beck Russell, health and life coach and the author of Life in the Soul Lane. Through conscious conversations, our aim is to inspire and empower you to live your most well, happy and vibrant life. If you're ready to elevate your well-being, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Health Source podcast. I am excited to share today's episode with you. I am in conversation with the wonderful Brittany Wilde, and Brittany is a brain health practitioner, human potential consultant, online business coach and strength and conditioning coach of over 15 years. Brittany's brand really is the premier training facility for what she calls business athletes. And these are people in business who are really looking for total life health and optimization. So these are people that don't just want business growth, but they also want brain, body, and behaviors to come along for the ride too. Brittany is the go-to for anyone who wants elevation, optimization, and high performance across the board: body, brains, behavior, business, and brand. And she uses her signature behavior change processes, well-rounded knowledge of psychology of brand loyalty, studies in applied neuroscience and human behavior, and almost a decade of her own online business experience, as well as her background as an athlete and her experience in the fitness industry. So she brings all of these pieces of the puzzle together to really help you to optimize your business and also your health and well-being as well. So quite the unique combination there. I love everything that Brittany shares. She's got such an incredible take on so many things in business and health and life. So I'm really excited to share today's episode with you. So in this episode, we do talk about how we can reach our full potential as humans. We talk about some ways that we can create a beautiful, sustainable business and a profitable business, some common mistakes that Brittany sees business owners make. We also talk about what Brittany has coined as body-based business as well. So this is such a juicy conversation. I got so much out of it, so I hope you do too. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Brittany, and we're talking all things brains, bodies, and business. Britt, welcome to the Health Source podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so delighted to have you on the podcast today because you are such a beacon of light. I love all of your unique perspectives about health and business and life and all the things, which we're going to dive into in just a moment. But before we do, I would love to learn a little bit more about Britt, the person. So I wanted to start by asking you, what are your top three? You can do more or less if you want, but top three things that you do to keep yourself really happy and healthy.
Ooh, good question. Look, right now, I would say getting enough food in. This is like my biggest thing to be healthy and happy. I get hangry, like probably most people do, but making sure that I'm getting in my protein and my carbs, damn, this is like such an obsession of mine right now because I think background as an athlete and probably not necessarily realizing that I was under eating accidentally for a lot of that. This is a really big thing. It makes me feel so good, like I'm sharp, I feel vibrant. So food intake is huge for me. Sunshine is huge for me. This is the second thing I do. I would say connect with my family, but that's a given. So I'll go out of the box and give you another one, which is actually doing something that is not at all connected to my work or my family or my normal passions. And that is that this year I started dancing. So that's so rogue for me. It's very uncharacteristic, but I've started doing that and I've absolutely loved it. I started in April. We're now in October. So that, I mean, you probably feel this too. I think when you work for yourself and, you know, it's like business, family, business, family, business, family, it can be so easy to get so stuck in the minutia of that. So doing something that's a little out of the box, starting dancing, and I read a lot of like romantasy novels. So doing that has been it sounds so superficial, but like so beautiful for my mental health, my physical health, just that sense of variety and adventure and freshness. So they're the things that I've been doing that have been essential for my health and happiness.
I can relate to those three actually. Well, the food just a given. Like that's just like the love of my life is just eating food. Sunshine. I love that you touched on sunshine because that's been demonized a lot in the common narrative. So getting sunshine's definitely a big one for all of us. And the third thing that you said, trying something new, slightly different to you, but I've recently integrated a Qigong practice into my regime, and I have no excuse because my partner is like a Qigong master, but I've had some time to reflect on what happens when you try something new, and I'm going to share my reflections on that soon. So I love that you are in the same boat as well, and I have been watching your dancing journey and just being brave and sharing that for us all to be a passenger and a witness to. So yeah, getting outside of our comfort zone and getting outside of the box, I think it can be really beneficial in so many ways, not in just the actual tangible thing that you're doing.
I think it just demands presence too, doesn't it? Which is that you literally cannot be in another place mentally when you are learning something new. It takes so much of your mental resources to be learning something new and be experiencing so many new like sensory inputs and outputs. It's just the ultimate act of presence. I think it's such an exciting way to spend your time. Like, you know, people say, oh, I really struggle to switch off. I just think you need to do something new that makes you immerse with absolute and utter presence. You just can't be anywhere else.
It is, it's presence, and it's also allowing yourself to be vulnerable, I suppose, and allowing yourself to be a beginner again at something, and allowing yourself to mess up if that's what ends up happening, or be perfect if that's what ends up happening.
Yes, exactly. Just, let the process be messy. And I think it's an invitation into like everything that we experience with health, everything you experience with business, everything you experience with life, is that you don't always know where it's going to go. And you've got to be like saying yes to the messy process. So it's such a great example of that. And I mean, the romanticy, that's not messy at all. That's not learning something new. That's like a practice in imagination, drifting off. And it's beautiful. I don't know. It's been so refreshing.
Just one more question about you, Britt, before we dive into the deep, juicy stuff. But I want to know because, like I said, I am just obsessed with you. It's low-key obsessed with you. Just your unique perspectives about things and your intellect and the way that you can bring texture to a lot of things and a unique perspective. So I'm curious to know what it is that drives you both in your life but also in your business as well, if there's some way that you can distill that down into a podcast question or an answer.
Oh my goodness, what drives me? I think that this is such a natural part of who I am, and I've been asked this question a lot because I know I am very driven. I do think it's very much my nature, but I think the specific kind of elements of my nature that are driven is that I love the feeling of mastering something. Like that is just something that makes me feel the most me, the most alive, the most, I'm air quoting here, successful, is the feeling of a sense of mastery. Not necessarily being the master, but being in a state of mastery where I feel like I've chipped away for long enough, consistently enough, persistently enough that I'm seeing, like I'm reaping the rewards of that persistence. That feeling to me is just the best feeling. So I wouldn't say I necessarily chase the feeling, but I immerse in that feeling as often as I possibly can. So I think just progress, I think that's such a human quality, but it just feels particularly strong for me. I feel very driven by the pursuit of progress and the immersion in the feeling of progress. And then I think there's a really practical component of this, which is that I have 3 little girls. And I know that for them, and every mother probably, every parent probably says something of this ilk, but this is how it feels for me, which is that I am an example to them of what it looks like to live beautifully. And so when I think about the kind of health I want to have, I want them when they're growing up to not think, I don't want to be like my mum. I don't want that to be the narrative of I don't want to be like that. I want it to be a standard where they're like, that's really possible to have that because I've been shown that. It's that mirror neuron thing of seeing is believing. When you see that something is possible, you know that it can be available to you. It is an inbuilt narrative that you have then that I can have what I've seen around me. And I take that to heart. Like I am that for them. I am the goalpost for them right now that says you can have what I have. And of course they can have so much more. But I think from a health perspective, that drives me a lot. I think my relationship with my body, the way that I speak about my body, the way that I speak about beauty and self-acceptance and all of those things, especially with 3 little girls, is just so important to me. They're learning so much about how they see their own bodies and how they see their own health through the way that I speak and show them. And then I think from a business perspective, I genuinely just love it. I love the feeling of being able to teach someone something new and have them go, wow, this is brand new information. This has absolutely, changed the game for me. I've learned something that has deeply impacted something else, whether it is their ability to earn, their ability to feel confident doing something that they want to do, because all of that essentially leads back to the same place. Whether it's more income or more confidence or more clarity, it all leads back to the same place, which is that you actually just get to do more of what you like doing. It creates good people. People that love what they do are really good people. And so I think ultimately it comes back to that. I want my kids to see that I love what I do, but I also genuinely do love it, and I want to be free to do more of that. So I think the drive is multi-pronged, but it comes back to the same place. Like, I love what I do. I want my kids to see that I love what I do. I want to be the standard for them where they know that what I have is possible. And I also think there's a huge component, which is nature or exposure. My dad was very like this too. He's very driven and all of those things. So I think a bit of nature, a bit of nurture, and a bit of just genuine love and passion for what I do.
That really gave me goosebumps when you were talking about, particularly when you were saying how you're such an example for your children. And I just love seeing, I don't have children, but friends and family and people that I follow, like all of these conscious parents that are emerging, and just the impact that's going to have on our future generation. So that's so beautiful. And then in regards to your work, where you are just having this genuine passion and love and being able to help and serve and help elevate other people to their full potential. Because like you just said, like if we're all happy and healthy and we're loving what we're doing, then that's just going to have such a massive ripple effect on our whole collective. So it's so impactful.
Yes, I mean, it's so hard to be a happy, healthy human if you don't love what you do. It's so hard to have, you can't just be happy in your personal life whilst also be hating what you do for a living, or vice versa. Like that isn't a happy person. That's a compartmentalized person, and we're not. We're whole integrated beings, as you very much well know. And so I just think, the more you can teach people to have genuine success in what they're doing, to find passion and to find their unique way of doing what they do, you're going to end up with happier people. You're going to end up with better role models. You're going to end up, creating a world for my kids that is really beautiful, where they don't talk about their work like it's, the bane of their existence, or it's the drag, or, it's whatever. It's like, I love what I do. And, Mummy's working today and I love what I do, and that's why I'm doing it. I mean, that's such a different narrative to what we're used to.
Absolutely. And a lot of your work explores, I guess, human potential. And so I'd love to ask you what your thoughts are about how we can achieve our optimal human potential. Let me just ask you that first, because it's a 2 or 3 part question, just so we don't get all confused with the question. But what do you think can help us to reach our fullest potential?
Yes, what a good question. I think that, again, It's probably like 75 different parts that I could speak about on that. But I'll start with the first part. And I think the first part is a willingness to take risks and experiment. And I know that you're going to be so sick of hearing me say that, most likely, because you've just listened to me say this inside one of my business programs. But the greatest business people, the greatest parents, the greatest humans are willing to take risks to get data about what works for them. Like, this is where human potential begins. It doesn't begin by hyper specializing at an early age, becoming extremely gifted at one thing and cutting out everything else. It doesn't typically work like that. Like, that is absolutely the story of outliers. That's not the story of the majority of people. The majority of people high perform or reach potential, or at least approach potential, through periods of experimentation. I can't even remember the guy's name now, but he teaches this theory, and I'm so sorry because I really hate when that happens. You really want to give credit where credit's due. I can't remember his name, but he speaks about this cycle of every hot streak that you experience in your life is preceded by a period of risk and experimentation. He calls it the explore, exploit cycle. It's essentially, you will explore, figure it out. It'll be messy. It'll be scrappy. And on the back of that, you're going to learn so much. And then your focus is going to be more honed because you're going to know what does and does not work for you. That those learnings end up turning into a hot streak, a period of success, of achievement, of growth, of experiencing more of what you want. And then you will basically go back into that cycle when you've lived out that hot streak, and you'll go back into the explore cycle. So when it comes to human potential and what we're actually capable of, I think the first element of that is that you have to be willing to take risks and experiment. You have to be willing for things to not work. And most of the time, humans don't do that, because we like to have quick wins, and we think quick wins equals success, but ultimately it equals quick burnout too. It actually typically doesn't end up. You look at, for example, child athletes who peak at 9, 10, 11, 12, 75% of them won't be doing the sport by the time they're 16. Like, when we peak early and we go for quick wins over longevity, we're going to end up with quick loss as well, quick burnout. So human potential starts with experimentation and risk. And then the second component of that, I think, is having a robust body that can go with you on the way. So they're the two elements that I would say that's how you begin human potential, like approaching that.
I think a lot of people, including myself, I'm totally guilty of this, but a lot of us are scared to take risks. We don't like being uncomfortable. We don't like the unpredictable. And so it really does take so much courage to be able to step into that unknown, to take risks, to be willing to be vulnerable, to be willing to fail and gather feedback and pivot and try again and stand up when you fall down. And so it's definitely not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure.
No, it's really not. And you're exactly on the money, which is that we have been led to believe something that is a farce, which is that if you are comfortable and safe, you are winning. That is the story that we've been led to believe. Like, we do things like, you just want to be comfortable. You just want to be able to go to uni so that you can have a job, so that you can pay the bills, so that you can be stuck in that cycle forever. And not to say that that doesn't work for some people, because it absolutely does, and it's their path. But the narrative is that discomfort equals you're doing it wrong, when it's so very often not the case. Being uncomfortable means I'm exposed to feelings that I don't necessarily like, but ultimately this might be the best thing for me. We don't really get taught that narrative very well, or very often, by whoever is around us. Like, we don't get taught that.
Do you think that this is why a lot of people aren't reaching their full potential, just because they are afraid to step out of their comfort zone?
I think that we have a notoriously low tolerance for discomfort. Yeah, I think that's why. I mean, you try something new, you know how it feels. And I mean truly something new that is genuinely uncharacteristic of you, where you have no runs on the board, where you have no experience and you have no buddies buffering the experience for you. It's just you and the experience. 99% of people won't do that. 99% of people, we're like, that's too uncomfortable. What if I look stupid? What if this doesn't work for me? What if I make a fool out of myself? We would rather be in a state of self-preservation and protection than we would in a period of explore and exploit, because that is uncomfortable. But I always say high risk, high reward. You want high reward, you got to do the thing that's risky. And you want to go low risk, low reward. There is no reward on the end of something that's not difficult.
They like that classic saying, nothing worth having comes easy. So I think we do have to get, myself included, a little bit more comfortable in the discomfort, get to be comfortably uncomfortable. I like to say that in my yin yoga classes, get comfortably uncomfortable. But if there's someone who perhaps has identified that they're stuck in this like comfort bubble, or they have identified that they've got these limiting beliefs or old behavioral patterns that they are like, all right, I'm ready to break free. Do you have any advice for that person who has identified that there's a problem and they're ready to step forward into something new?
Yes, I would say low exposure that gradually increases over time. So, I mean, there are two people. There is the rip the Band-Aid off type person. And if that's you, then you're probably not in this situation, because you're probably just going to go get it done. But if you're not that type of person and you are like hesitating on ripping the Band-Aid off, here's what I would say. And I'll give you an example of dance. So you probably don't know me, but you'll know Beck. And what you won't know about me is that I have been a sporty gal my entire life. So the idea of dancing in a sensual way with a group of people who had, in my head, been doing that for a really long time, was so deeply uncomfortable to me. And I had every thought that you are likely having right now, which is, I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. This is not meant for me. I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm going to have to like run out of there. I'm never going to go back again. It's going to be the worst experience. Like, this is what happens, right? This is how we speak. So here is what I did to kind of get myself ready. I basically lived on the Instagram page of this dance studio, and I watched every single thing on that Instagram account for 3 weeks. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to pick the easiest one, and then I'm going to just practice it at home, and I'm just going to copy the woman in the privacy of my own bedroom. So I did that. I tried. I sucked. I really wasn't good at all. And then I did that for quite a few days. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to not watch her anymore. And now I'm just going to try it on my own. And then I did that for a few days. And then I just started playing the music, and then I did it without her, and I just started making it up. And then I went to the class and I got there really early, and I sat in my car and I waited to watch everyone walk in to make sure that I was dressed appropriately, to make sure that I felt really comfortable. I watched how other people did it on the way in. And then I walked in and I met everyone, and it was really fine. And I went to my first class and it was okay. Right? Now, if I had have just gone, I probably would have turned up at the car park and left. It's like these small exposures. And I'm not saying it has to be for your dance class. That's like my version of that. But for whoever's listening, their version of that is going to be small exposure to the thing that they're going to do before they start doing it. Do your due diligence. I call this the friction list. This is where every piece of friction that stands between you and the thing you want to do, you basically have to create a piece of admin where you take control of that controllable. And you do that before you go and actually put yourself in the experience. So for me, it was like, what am I going to wear? What if I look like an idiot? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to pick an outfit that feels really comfortable and safe. I'm going to compare it to what I see online, and I'm going to make sure that it's okay. What if I don't know what I'm doing? Okay, well, I'm going to copy and practice before I go, and I'll make sure I tick that off. Like, this is the friction list. This is the piece of admin that you do before you go to something so that you are actually genuinely prepared. Like, very few people are just like, a fuck it type person who just go, prepare yourself. Like, actually prepare yourself, and then be willing for there to be a gap. you won't experience readiness. You will experience slightly less trepidation. And that's basically it. But it's not going to be comfortable. You just have to get prepared. And as soon as you know that you've done all of those things, this is as comfortable as you're going to be, the rest is up to you. And that's an act of courage. That gap, that's just an act of courage. And no one can give you that, and no one can coach you on that, and no one can make it for you. That's a you and you thing. And so, like, if this is the courage that's required and you take care of all of that admin and exposure, and this is the courage that's left, then that's the bit that you have to bring. So that is what I would say.
I love that answer. Getting a friction list. I'm going to do that next time I want to do something scary, because it is. It's like we're self-responsible only for ourselves at the end of the day. So we have to do whatever it takes for us to, and we really have to be able to be willing to do whatever it takes and really want the thing and be able to do whatever it takes to get from here to there. And oftentimes the thing is never as scary as what we make it out to be in our crazy heads. So yes, we should all know by now, because I feel like we've all had that experience where we've built something up so much in our heads and then the thing happens and it's not what we had anticipated. But it also reminded me of this quote the other day. I'm going to butcher it, but it was something to the effect of being ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And so I think that we just have to wake up one day and decide if we're going to do the thing that scares us, or we need to decide if we're actually going to go after the life that it is that we want, not just sort of sitting around waiting for it to come to us, or waiting for us to be feeling like fluffy and good and ready, or, you know, whatever the thing, like you have to just go for it.
That's exactly it. I mean, I hear this from people all the time in business. Like, I'm so terrified of putting my face to camera. I'm so terrified of posting this thing. I'm so terrified of opening the cart and offering, you know, my product. And I'm like, then you're either going to stay terrified and do nothing, or you're just going to do something about it. Like, there's really nothing that anyone can save you from in those circumstances. It's like you actually have to decide. You have to decide whether you're willing to tolerate the discomfort and you're willing to endure for the sake of your own experience, exposure, growth, possibility. You're either going to be willing or you're not. I can't make you do that. And so, yes, you know, that's the muscle you're flexing all the time, whether it's in your health, your business, your personal life. You're flexing bravery, you're flexing courage all the time.
Let's pivot a bit and talk about business now. We've sort of started creeping
in.
We started creeping our way into it. This is one of the main parts of your work, is you help other business owners to do their thing. So I'm curious to know, you can just use one example or a few, whatever comes to mind for you, but I'm curious to know, in your many years of working with other business owners, what are some of the common or biggest mistakes that you see? And I feel like some of what we've covered is going to cross over with the business world as well.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So biggest mistakes is, if I got right into the actual business element, I would say the biggest mistakes I see are like poor structural setups of businesses, meaning we don't have contingency plans. We don't have a solid product suite. We don't have a beautiful flow so that people can move through the world of our business with ease. That's like probably the number one thing that I see is a really big challenge for most people, is that, you know, we're kind of going with the idea that pops into our heads and hoping for the best and whacking it up and then going, oh, that didn't really work. And, you know, there's a million reasons for that, which has a whole lot to do with human behavior and preparing an audience to receive and all of those sorts of things. So that's probably number one. Number two is not actually being aware of the internal elements required in business. And what I mean by that is not necessarily being aware of the perpetual discomfort of creating a business, which is that it's not, oh my God, now I work for myself. This is so freeing. I have so much flexibility. Money is rolling in. Like it's very rarely that. And it's so often, wow, I've got like a lot of fires that I need to put out, and oh, that timeline doesn't work. And oh, wow, now I've got something else that's like encroaching on that other idea. And oh, I've got a back end issue, and, you know, someone wants a refund and that person isn't happy with that product, or whatever the thing is. I think there are a lot of really big emotional components to business that are very often overlooked. And I think because people don't go in with their eyes wide open, they go in naive, which is honestly probably the best way to go in. They presume or assume that the negative feelings they have are a sign that they shouldn't be doing this. But if they went in under the pretense of the discomfort I'm feeling is a natural part of the context of business, so many people would stick it out a whole lot longer. I see people come and go really quickly, like there's no staying power because the discomfort becomes too great. They're not willing to work on, their capacity to hold a level of discomfort and build tools and practices around that help them actually become more tolerant, more resilient internally. So that would be number 2. And then number 3 is not having a body that can actually go with you on the process of business. Meaning a lot of people in business want to 10x and 20x. Meanwhile, they've got sleep disturbances, they've got gut health issues, they've got, stuff going on with their thyroid, they can't keep up with the workload that's coming in. And so naturally, as is kind of the law of balance, business will come down to the level of the body. It's very rare that the body will rise to the level of the business. So, and this is why I love bringing business and health together, because your business has to go along for the ride. So when you're working on your business, part of that is actually working on the health of your body. And that's not to say you have to be in perfect health every minute of every day and that there's perfection that's expected. Everyone's got their stuff going on. It is understanding that if your business is stagnated, yes, of course, look at your structure, look at your messaging, look at your marketing, look at your craft, look at all of the things, but also go and look at your body. What's going on there? Where do you think it's stagnating and isn't able to go with you on the ride? So they're probably the top 3.
I was going to ask you to explore this notion of body-based business, which is part of your program, Game Changers, because like we said, at the top of the conversation, we can't really put our parts of our life in different departments.
Compartmentalize.
That's the one. And pretend that they're not intertwined. So it's of course, if something's going on in one area of your life, it's going to affect the other. And really, if we end up having this beautiful success in our business, but our health is suffering, what's the point? We have to really put our health first so that we are able to hold everything that we are cultivating in our business.
Yes, and what's the point of reaching these beautiful heights in your business if then you're too tired to enjoy them? Whether, you're working so much that you don't gain that increased flexibility that was probably one of the drivers when you began. What's the point if, you're so grumpy and mentally disconnected that you don't want to celebrate with your family at the end of it? So this concept of body-based business is essentially you need to be able to work in cycles around the needs and demands of your body. And so when people are I'm in a busy season and my body's falling apart at the same time, it's that might be a business logistical error where you've expected to be on when you've actually needed to rest. And I err on this side a lot. I fall prey to this concept just as much as the next person, which is that really, really prioritizing your body is just so key. Your creative output is a direct byproduct of your nourishing input. It's just if you want to be better creatively, input better things, whether that's in through your eyeballs, as in what you're consuming, what you're reading, it's in your ears, it's what you're listening to. But yes, it's also in your mouth. What are you actually putting in your body? And is that going to cultivate I always say clear body, clear channel. You want to have a clear creative channel, clear your body, make it pristine. And that's the way.
We've touched on the 3 biggest mistakes that you've seen lots of business owners making. What are your top 3 big pieces of advice for business owners to succeed not only financially or getting accolades from people, but for them to feel fulfilled, for them to be able to maintain their health and their body and their life outside of business, and for it to be sustainable for the long term as well.
Yes. So I always say that, business is not tactics, business is people. So the number one thing, if you want your business to be sustainably long-term successful, that can move through many economic climates, many personal seasons, many collective themes and trends. If you want a business that lasts through all of that, you need to learn how to read people. When you can read people, you're going to create products that people want. When you don't understand people, you're not going to create products that they want. You're going to create products that you want, and they're not always the same thing. So learning how to read people, and that is there's a human behavior component to that. There is an applied neuroscience component to that. There is a biopsychology component to that. There is learning how to test and get data and read the room that you're in, whether that is on social media or face-to-face, whatever. It's learning how to actually read your people. We were talking about what doesn't work in business. And one of the things is that more often than not, people create products that they like that aren't actually needed or wanted by their community. And then they think, oh, well, I'm not meant to do this. It's no. It just wasn't the right time. It's not with the right market, and it's not the right product. People don't want it. Just because, we've had an idea doesn't mean that everything needs to come to life. So that the first piece is people who are successful are people who are good at reading other people. They know how to get inside the head of someone else and understand what they're thinking and what they're feeling and what they're objecting to and what they want and what they desire and what they're craving in their life. So that's number one, the biggest skill is learn human behavior, client psyche, biopsychology, purchase drivers. Learn those things. You'll be 10 times better at business than most other people. That's the first thing. Second is what we were talking about at the start, actually, which is do new things consistently. Get really familiar, not comfortable, because that's not the point. Get really familiar with the feeling of doing something different and new. Just that exposure to something that is original to your body is such a unique little code to be feeding it all the time, that feeling of discomfort. So, every time I get on a call, I am thousands of calls deep in my business. I am years deep in the business. I've done it a lot. Every group call I get on, I still get nervous. Every single one. It's never lose connection to what it is to deeply serve with new people in new ways. Never forget that connection. And one of the ways that I stay really available to that feeling is to go and try new things, to do new things, to go to new places. I love that feeling because it reminds me of how important that first time is for someone else. The first session that they have with me, the first coaching experience, the first game changers call, the first whatever, that's so important. That to them feels like how the dance class felt to me. And it's so important that you remember that. It's keep your edge by staying on your own. Really, really stay close to your own edge and explore what it feels like to do new things. I also think being in new environments, it encourages originality, creativity, imagination. Those things are so important in business. You want to have a really unique value proposition. You want to have a really unique offer. You want to be one of one in a world of carbon copies. You need to keep your edge. And you're not going to do that by scrolling Instagram. And you're not going to do that by going to the same places you've been going to for 10 years. So that's number two. And I guess connected to that is therefore building a stronger internal constitution of what you're actually willing to tolerate and endure emotionally, because that's business. Business is, you probably know this very well. It's hard. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it. I wouldn't give it up for anything. It's hard. It's an emotional roller coaster. We go through 830 moods a day. It's a lot. So I think finding ways to just really get familiar with and probably smooth and cohesive at sliding on that emotional spectrum, and just knowing how to continue coming back to baseline, that is such a skill. It's okay, I've had a really hard day in business, but you know what? I got to go pick up my baby girls. How do I center? How do I come back to myself? And how do I not let that affect these beautiful parts? So yes, they would be my three things.
It's definitely not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. No. And I think we can learn so much from business, whatever scale we're at, whether we're just a little solopreneur doing our thing in the world or we have a business or a company. It's definitely can provide us with some beautiful life lessons. So yes, I'm definitely echoing everything that you just said.
I have a conversation with one of my really good friends who is a health practitioner, and I'm like, wow, business and health are so similar. A lot of people come into business, they'll book a coaching package or they'll book a session and they're like, right, everything that's wrong with my business, I want it fixed today. And I'm like, it kind of reminds me of what it's like when people start a health journey. And, they want every single one of their problems solved yesterday. They're not willing to play the long game. They want, I've still got symptoms, and it's like 5 days later. You're like, you got to give it some time. Like, we're undoing a lot of stuff here, and you've got to give it time. You've got to have patience. You've got to have a long view. You've got to have perspective. And I think, there are so many similarities between the two where, sometimes establishment of like a healthy business or a healthy body, they are long game projects, and you are going to have improvement along the way, but you need to like ride it out. Both are so similar in that way. And I love it.
And just practicing patience, having resilience, being devoted to whatever it is, whatever the thing is, whether you're a business owner or not. And just having the courage to show up again and again and again.
And have little setbacks, like have your little flare up, and then stay strong on your supplements, stay strong on your protocol, and be like, okay, today wasn't a great day, but tomorrow is going to be better, and I'm going to rein that thing in. I'm going to change that thing. I'm going to adjust that other thing. It's just like that. It's exactly what it's like in business. It's exactly what it's like in health. Like, it's not always smooth sailing, and it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means it's part of the experience.
Britt, this has been amazing. I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I'll save you all of my 10,000 more questions that I could pick your brains about. But just as we prepare to close out our conversation, is there anything that we have not covered? Is there anything else you want to impart on our listeners as we prepare to close out our conversation?
I don't think so. Is there anything you would like me to impart to close out our conversation?
Let's distill it all down. If I could get you to leave us with one statement or one paragraph for us to have success in life and business and health. You can either do them separately or all together, but what do you think? What's your thoughts about that?
Ooh. Okay. There is a quote. Yeah, I know. I'm literally just writing it down so I don't butcher it. There is a beautiful quote that I love from Conor McGregor, UFC fighter. And I'm going to butcher it. This is not verbatim, but this is the crux of what he says. He says, timing is more important than power, and precision is more important than speed. And I love this, and it is applicable to so much, which is that everything we want to do hard and fast. We want it yesterday. But sometimes timing really matters. Most of the time, timing matters. Like, you can go really, really hardcore, or you can just get the timing right. You can be the fastest person ever and you can move more than anyone, or you can just be really precise. And I really love that. I love that in terms of health. I think of all of the people that I've spoken to who are kind of, throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, and like, oh yeah, I took this supplement, didn't really work. Oh, well, I guess that doesn't work. I got a new protocol, but I sometimes forget to take my supplements. It's that. It's like, actually, if you just nailed this timing and you just did this with precision and you did it for long enough, you would have a better experience and you would see better results. And it's the same in business. I see some people who move at the speed of light, but their timing is so off. And I see people making absolute power moves, but the precision is just not there. And then I see some people who just chip away and they get the precision right and they get the timing right and everything works out. And I just think that's such an important lesson. And I mean, I apply it to everything. You can have a powerful, massive argument with your spouse, or you can just get the timing right and be really precise with what you want to say. And it's probably going to work out better. And so I love that quote. I think I butchered it. I think it's maybe timing and speed, precision and power, but we'll just go with what I said. And so, yes, that is what I would leave you with. That is one of my favorite things. It is one of the things I love to remember. Like, when I start feeling like I'm a bit antsy or I'm itching to make a move, I think, is this the right timing though? Like, just because I've got an itch and I want to scratch it and I'm going to make a move at the wrong time just to get out of the discomfort? Or do I want to tolerate the discomfort and get my timing right and my precision right and actually just have this work out for me? And I teach this all the time about, restraint and containment. They're two skills that we just really lack in anything. The best long-term relationship advice I ever got was don't say everything you think. I think that's appropriate. It's about containment. It's about precision. Is this really necessary? Do I actually have to say this? Is this going to improve things or is this going to inflame things? I see it. Yeah. I just see it everywhere. And I just think it's so beautiful. This act of really showing restraint and really starting to shape the energies that are moving through you, whether that is creative energy. I really want to make that thing. I'm going to tell everyone on my social media. And then you don't want to do it tomorrow. And then you've eroded trust. Or I'm going to say yes to this new practitioner, but you've actually already got a protocol that you're on that you're not really doing properly. It's just all of that. I think it speaks to so much of what we move through in the human experience.
Such good advice. And I put my hand up and say I've definitely been guilty of that in the past, just because I can tend to be quite impulsive. And so, I think that's such good advice in business and in life, just to, chill a little bit with it. And if I was getting this visual when you were saying that of swimming with the current rather than against the current, and just making moves that are a bit more considered as well.
Yeah, just consideration. And I mean, I'm not talking about, you want to go on an adventure on the weekend, you want to be spontaneous, bloody have at it, go do that. It's not to take away from that, the beautiful impulses that we can have and the spontaneity that we can have that can make life really vibrant and alive. It's more about when it comes to these things that are going to actually affect your long-term experience of life, whether that is your business, whether that is your health, whether that is your relationships, apply that principle of nail your timing, nail your precision. Life is going to be better. It's just giving it some consideration and it's not even moving slowly, because I absolutely cannot say that I move slow in life. I am a fast mover for sure, but I'm always thinking about this. Is this actually the right time, or could I make some move behind the scenes, set myself up, and then when I'm ready to hit go, I'm going to do it. And it's usually that, just check yourself for 5 seconds.
Just check yourself. Let's leave it there.
Check yourself. Great advice. Check yourself.
Thank you so much, Britt. This has been incredible. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and your thought and your leadership around all of this. Can you share with us, all the listeners, where they can find you, connect with you, how they can work with you, and all of the things?
Well, come and hang out on Instagram. It is I am Brittany Wilde with an E, WILDE. Come and hang out there on Instagram, or you can just go to my website, brittanywild.com. They're basically the only places you'll get me. And all the things are linked in all the places, and you'll be able to have a look.
Go and check out Britt's Instagram, because she drops some truth bombs over there, and I love it.
Thank you. Yes, more to come. Many more truth bombs to be said.
Oh, thank you so much, Britt.
Thanks, Beck. You're the best.
I absolutely loved this conversation with Brittany. I hope you did too. I really love the way that Brittany speaks on so many topics and has such a matter-of-fact way of sharing some really unique perspectives about business and health and life. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Come over and connect with Brittany and I on Instagram and tell us what you loved about this episode and what you're going to implement into your life and your business following this episode. You can connect with Brittany on Instagram at I am Brittany Wilde, and you can visit Brittany's website, which is brittanywild.com. You can connect with myself on Instagram. My handle is at @BeckRussell_, and you can also follow the podcast at @thehealthsource_. That's it for another episode of the Health Source podcast. Until next time, take really good care of yourself, and I'll chat to you again soon. Are you looking to up-level your mornings, your days, and ultimately your life? I've got a cool freebie that I think you are going to love if you answered yes. It is called Mindful and Motivated Mornings, and I created this freebie because I understand that how we start our day can really determine how our day will flow on from there. So inside this freebie, you will receive a 20-minute yoga practice, a nourishing breakfast recipe, and you'll also get a reflection journal where you can write down any thoughts or feelings that are coming through for the day. And you can also track your food, your movement, and your water intake as well. And this can all happen under 30 minutes because I know a lot of us are time poor and we're busy and we're out there chasing our dreams. So I wanted to make sure that it was able to fit into your busy morning routine as well. So if you feel like this is exactly what you need to start your day off the right way, click the link in the show notes and you will be taken straight to the download where you can start your day off in the right way.